Hey guys, you ever feel like your horses are just too tall to bridle easily, or you're not quite tall enough to do it well, or you struggle with bridling your horse because every time you go to bridle him, he keeps picking his head up higher and higher and higher. And so you start to think that maybe you have a bridling issue with your horse. And if you ever felt that way, believe me, you're not alone. And we've had a lot of people come into our barns and they watch me bridle horses and stuff, and they think that I bridle horses pretty easily because I'm so tall. They think, well, you're tall enough, you don't have any trouble. Well, believe me, I wasn't this tall when I first started bridling horses. So I've been there, I've done that with you guys. I've had those same struggles. In fact, the people that taught me how to bridle a horse weren't very tall, and we had a lot of the same issues. We were able to get it done, but it wasn't very pretty. What made me go about changing the way that I bridle my horses and how I think about it was a couple of statements that was made to me, 20 some years ago by horseman John Lyons. And the first statement he made was, he said, no horse is taller than he is from the tip of his nose to the top of his poll. And there's probably a lot of people sitting out there right now looking at me like I'm crazy, because that's about the way I looked at John. You're probably standing next to a 17-hand warm blood and you're 5 foot nothing going, are you crazy? Look how tall this horse is. What do you mean he's only as tall as he is from the tip of his nose to the top of his poll? And then John followed that statement up with this. He said, I've never met a horse or heard of a horse that's so tall that he can't reach the ground to eat grass. And with that, basically the light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, why am I having trouble bridling these horses? If they can put their head all the way down and reach grass, they ought to be able to put their head somewhere where I can reach them and bridle them comfortably. So I thought about the way that I went about bridling horses and started realizing that I was creating my own problems with the method or the technique that I used to bridle my horse. And if I told you right now that when you bridle your horse, you're probably asking him to pick his head up, you'd probably look at me like I'm crazy. And you'd say, why in the world would I ask my horse to pick his head up and make my job even harder? He's already too tall and I'm this tall. Why would I ask him to pick his head up to bridle him? That's just crazy. And I say, well, it is, but you probably are doing that simply by not knowing any better. And most of us that struggle with that issue probably bridle our horses in a very similar fashion. And most of us start out probably with the head stall somewhere on our right hand like this, and we come up and under, and we start to bridle like this. And what we're doing is, as soon as we come up and under our horse like this, we're putting pressure here and we're asking our horse to pick his head up. And you can see Jasper starting to pick his head up. So if he picks his head up, my arms go up. And eventually his head goes up. And then my arms go up. And then eventually his head goes up. And Jasper's probably going to end up saying, I sure wish you'd quit asking me to pick my head up, because pretty soon I'm going to have to rear up to get my head any higher. And then we end up here and we get the head stall up and over his head. And then all of a sudden the horse relaxes and he drops his head back down. And you say, well, dummy, why didn't you put your head there? My job would have been a lot easier. I changed the method of bridling my horses from going up and underneath their jaw and asking them to pick their head up. And I start coming over them and I ask them to put their head down. And right there, a lot of you probably say, well, I can't reach my horse's head. He's 17 hands. How can I get him to put his head down? I can't even reach the top of his head. And I'll tell you just the way I told my children. I haven't bridled my horses for my children since they learned how to do it themselves. And you take this handy little fancy rope you got right here, and most of us, even if we have a super tall horse, we can at least throw the lead rope over their head, their neck, and maybe we can flip it here a couple times. And I say, just put a little pressure on it and see what happens. When he puts his head down, we let go of it. We pet him and say, good job, Jasper. And then we'll just start right up here with him or whatever. And we'll start asking him to keep his head down here. Maybe put his head down. We'll go back and we'll pet him and leave him alone. Till eventually we can get his head down here. And he's pretty comfortable like this. And if you've had trouble with your horse for a while, he tends to pick it up. This may take you a few sessions, but usually not too long, to just get your horse comfortable with his head down. Because anytime I apply pressure now to my horse, all the pressure is above my horse's head, and anything I do is going to ask my horse's head to come down. Versus before, everything we did, all the pressure came from underneath our horse, applying pressure, and we were always asking our horse's head to go up. So by just changing the position of our arm from underneath our horse to above him, we're applying pressure and asking him to bring his head down. And you notice I can also put my hand on the side of his jaw to kind of help keep his head here. And another thing I like to do is I actually like to put a little bend in my horse's head and kind of wrap him around my side here like this. By putting this bend and this flex in my horse's head, I actually want to create a little bit of softness and relaxation. And this is going to help my horse want to relax and want to keep his head down and be comfortable right here. Also, another thing this does is anytime something moves or whatever catches my horse's attention, he goes to pull away like that. It lets me know right away if my horse is paying attention to me or if he's in his own little world doing his own thing. And that's one of my pre-ride checks is like, just by starting out bridling him and haltering him, how well is he going to stay down here and stay relaxed? If everything's catching his attention and he's wanting to pull away from me or he's wanting to pick up, and look off, and everything that moves catches his attention, I already know I've got some work to do before I even get on his back to get his attention and have him paying attention to me. But like I said, I just want to work on my horse staying nice, down, soft, and relaxed right here like this. And then once I've got him there, we'll probably go ahead and slip this halter off of him. Tie it back on here. And you can see I'm losing his attention. His head's not going up, but I'm kind of losing his attention. He's not wanting to stay, so bring him back up, put him in position again. Pet on him, say, right here's where I want you, Jasper. If his head goes up, right now my arm is over his head, and basically my body can protect my face. If he was to go up, real quick or impatient, something really got nervous, most he's going to do is come up and kind of push my body out of the way. If he had a real bad bridling problem or head shy problem, I can squat down. I can kind of put pressure on him like this. If he goes picking up, I can put my hands on the side of him here. Someone's making noise over there, caught his attention, and I can kind of just bring him back. Then get my bridle in position here. Get my reins over his head here where I've got him. Like I said, versus coming from underneath like this, like a lot of us used to do. I can't even do this anymore. It's been so long since I've done it. But I want to come with my arm right up here above his head or from the side. Like I said, I want to keep this bend in him. And when I ask my horse to take a bit, we want to be slow and patient, and I want my horse to actually pick the bit up and put it in his mouth himself. I don't want to pick up on this headstall and force the bit up into his mouth. I want him to actually take the bit and pick it up himself before I pick up on it. And another thing that'll help everyone too is, most of us out there probably only have one horse, so we only have one bridle and we don't have to adjust it a lot. But if you're in a barn riding several horses with the same bridle, is make sure it's kind of loose. You know, you get done riding, you go to put your bridle away, let it out 1 or 2 notches so that when you do put it on him, your horse will pick the bit up and put it where he wants it. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit loose. He should hold it in his mouth. You don't have to really worry about the bit dropping down and hitting the back of his teeth. But if it's already tight or in position or it's too small, when we go to slip it over his ears or whatever, it's going to be pulling back on his cheeks real far. And that's going to create a little bit of an issue and make him feel a little uncomfortable too. So if we just have our headstall 1 notch or 2 notches a little too big, you can see he's getting kind of light in the mouth. So when I go to pick up on this thing, he's wanting to back up just a little bit. And there we can adjust it to where we want it. And again, all the time, keeping Jasper's head down. And the reason I pulled Jasper out to use him, because he's one of the tallest horses in our barn right now. And I wanted to demonstrate that it really doesn't matter how tall your horse is. It doesn't really matter how tall I am. You know, because Jasper's anywhere from 15'1" to 15'2", I think. So he's not a 17-hand warm blood by no means, but he's not the shortest horse either in the world. And you can see, like I said, he can reach the ground pretty easy. He's not too tall to reach the ground, so there's no reason any horse can't learn this, to keep their head down and low where we can bridle them. And again, anytime our hand or whatever is above the horse's head, putting pressure above his head, we're asking our horse's head to come down. Anytime we come underneath, we're asking our horse's head to come up. So a lot of times we're creating our own problems by putting pressure underneath our horse and asking him to pick his head up. So, good job, Jasper. Go ahead and ask you to drop this bridle out. And again, when we're unbridling, I let Jasper drop that bit out so we don't create issues, you know, that's gonna make him worry about getting bridle or getting the bit. And again, I got my hand over the top of him, asking him to keep his head down low. You know, and like I said, it wouldn't matter if this is all the taller I was. Jasper should be able to keep his head right here where I can bridle him. Good boy, Jasper. So I hope you guys find this video helpful. I hope you understand that the techniques and the methods that we're using are probably what's creating our own problems if we have a bridling issue. Hit like and share. Keep following us on Chambers Horsemanship, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.